Another year just ended, and you couldn't quite say where it went. Seneca had a hard answer for that. It isn't that life is short, he wrote. It's that we waste most of it. Most men only believe him when it's already too late to do anything about it. One of them was 35, standing in his grandfather's kitchen, holding a single sheet of paper. His name was Wren. He answered messages all day that felt urgent and forgot them by evening, always telling himself he'd slow down once things settled. He'd driven 4 hours to reach this kitchen, to a grandfather he hadn't visited in 2 years, thinner now than he remembered. The kettle ticked on the stove. A drawer beside it stuck halfway when the old man pulled it. He looked like a man with everything still ahead of him. He felt like a man already behind. The old man worked the stuck drawer the rest of the way open and took out a sheet of paper, folded so many times the creases had gone soft. He put it in Wren's hands without a word. The ink had faded, and the handwriting was his grandfather's, but younger, pressed harder into the page. "You are not running out of time," the old man said. "You're running out of attention." Wren looked up to ask what he meant. The old man only nodded at the paper. "Read one line every morning, before you touch your phone. Before anything," he said. "Just one line. Then go." On the drive home, Wren nearly left the paper on the passenger seat. That night he unfolded it and read the first line. A single sentence written by a man exactly his own age, about a morning that man had promised himself he would never waste. Something tightened in his chest, and he pushed it away. A grandfather's note. Nice words. He had real things to do. The next morning he reached for his phone before his feet hit the floor. The messages, the feed, the small urgent nothing, and only remembered the paper at noon, parked between 2 errands he couldn't recall choosing. He had failed at it by breakfast. The unread line sat folded in his coat pocket all day, getting heavier. He called his grandfather that weekend. "It didn't work," Wren admitted. "I forgot it by morning." There was a long quiet on the line. Then the old man laughed, softly. "I wrote that page when I was 35, he said. "Though the words weren't mine, I copied them from Seneca, then went out and wasted 30 more years anyway. I wrote it at 35. I didn't read it again until I was 65. 30 years, folded in a drawer. The wisest man Wren knew had spent half his life forgetting the one thing he'd known well enough to write down. Wren hung up and looked at the date in the corner of the page. The same age. The exact same age he was right now. He thought of the drawer that stuck, of 30 years of mornings his grandfather had meant to begin and didn't. Then he did one small thing. He folded the paper in half and set it on his pillow, where his hand would reach it before his phone could. The next morning, he sat at the table for an hour before anyone else was awake. Just the paper and a notebook, and the particular quiet of a house before it starts. He didn't finish what he began, but he began. The book he'd been talking about for years finally had 100 pages. He called the people he used to only mean to call. The mornings changed slowly. Not all of them. He still missed some. But most days, before the world could reach him, he read one line and gave the first hour to the thing he'd have grieved leaving undone. When he drove back to the village that autumn, he found his grandfather sitting outside, watching the road. Wren sat down beside him and said the line back to him. "You are not running out of time. You are running out of attention." And this time it didn't land like a warning. It sounded like something he had finally been given enough of. You think the problem is how many years you have left. It isn't. You give your days away, an hour at a time, to things you won't remember, and call it being busy. The hours were never the scarce thing. Your attention was, and it was forged for a single life only. If this reached you at the right time, give it a like so it finds someone who needs it today. And tell me below, what's the one thing you'd give your first hour to tomorrow morning? Just one. I read every reply. Back in the village, the drawer beside the stove sits empty now. The paper lives in Wren's coat pocket, soft at the creases, and every morning it gets red.